Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever the time zone you're in. Guys, this is Harsh Bharadwaj, and I'm very glad to present you the first lesson in the series of many lessons to come to cover the entire English literature syllabus for the UPSC students. I have been teaching for some time, and I get a lot of requests from students, aspirants from all over India, and they complain about the lack of material for English literature. So without further ado, I would like to start that this is the first lesson in the series of. I'm hoping to give you about 28 to 30 lessons to cover the entire syllabus, and we will try to do it in 14 to 16 weeks. So you will be looking at a couple of lessons every week. This is the first one, and this lesson covers. We will be starting with paper two, prose section. So, if you're aware of the syllabus, I presume you understand the format of the paper. Paper one, paper two, both papers have one section of prose and another section of poetry and drama. So we are starting with paper two, which looks into the to the in the timeline of 1900 onwards, right? So that's what we are focusing upon. So the first text from paper two is a passage to India that I'll always look at, and this is going to be an interesting lesson because this lesson I've already covered in very good detail at Unacademy. So I will be giving you the links of Unacademy lesson course, and you can watch the lesson there. It's already there in 5 parts. So there's no point me trying to do it all over again. A lot of students have already watched it, and so those who don't know that it's available at Unacademy, I'll be posting the links in the description. So do check out the links in the description, and please do comment back here or back there wherever you want. But the rest of the lessons are going to be added here on YouTube, not on Unacademy. Okay, so this is available to everyone, and I'm using more or less the same notes that I use for my classroom courses. The only difference is that these lessons are going to be a bit shorter, crisper, and more onto the point. And obviously, because it's a video lesson, so there is no two-way interaction. So that's the only drawback. Otherwise, I'll try to cover all the main aspects of each lesson, of each text. So, for Passage to India, I'll give you a brief introduction that you can use when you read the text, or if you've already read the text, and if you go to an academy and check out the text. In looking at, always keep in mind that you're preparing for UPSC exam and you're not reading these texts for a university exam, and there is a big difference. I keep hammering upon this point. UPSC is not looking for people who are masters of literature or people who are great in their critical and literary analysis. UPSC is looking for people who can think on their feet, people, students, or officers who can go through a vast or a large body of text quickly and make their inferences and make decisions based on that data, large data. So that's why English literature syllabus, when you read the text, you're supposed to just quickly read it, critically read it, and then figure out what it's all about in your own original opinion. So Passage to India has a couple of quite important concepts that we look at, and UPSC has been quite consistent in last 10 years, and all the questions revolve around that. So the first concept is always going to be the post-colonial reading of the book. I have covered it in a separate lesson on an academy. It's lesson two there. So the post-colonial reading looks at how E.M. Forster's view of India in A Passage to India is strictly an Englishman's view, which is a very limited, probably biased and prejudiced view of India. So when we read A Passage to India with the lens of a post-colonial theory, so we try to figure out the instances of discrimination, biases, prejudices, and how an Englishman looks upon or looks down India. So that's what we're trying to spot when we're doing the post-colonial reading of the book. That's one concept. Another concept would be how he structured the book, the stylistics, his craft. So he's structured the book in three sections: the mosque, the caves, and the temple. Why he's done that? Why he's only shrunk the whole demography of India into Hindus and Muslims? And that's also reflected in the structure of the book. Temple and mosque, sandwiched between them is the caves. So why he's done that? What's the reason of that? Is it a stylistic thing? Was it a technique? So that's also something, because that also involves a lot of symbols and images and metaphors that he uses. Another important thing when you're reading A Passage to India, which most people don't realize, is that this book came out in 1920s when India was still a British colony, and India was not the unified India that we know today, right? So India was a conglomeration of princely states ruled over by one ruler, British ruler. So that concept of India as we know now doesn't work. Is not the same concept that Foster uses in the book. So when he mentions India, he does not mention India that we know today. So you always have to keep that in mind. Another thing to keep in mind is that this book was meant to be read by the Europeans. So it was written with that perspective. So going back to the first question, that is it an Englishman's view? Yes, it's very much an Englishman's view, because it was supposed to be read only by the English people or the Europeans, right? So you keep these things in mind. You look at the lesson, make your own assumptions, attempt as many questions as you can. And also started a test series, which is a 14 weeks test series where I evaluate your answers, send out fantastic questions. So you can become part of that before the prelims or after it. Keep watching these video lessons. Any comments, post them back here, and I'll try to address them as soon as possible. Happy reading, folks, and thanks for watching.